The first question is, well, there have been we know that Trump has been trying to exercise his control over Venezuelan oil. And he has been offering certain concessions to say that we can drop certain sanctions, but then I have control of your oil, which will be sold by US dollars and which will come to certain accounts which are monitored by the US. So on the question about how, and then of course there's also the new law passed by the parliament.
As the U.S. mentioned, I mean, starting with the oil issue, as the U.S. mentioned, as Trump mentioned, this whole attack on Venezuela was in the first time about fighting the drug trafficking and terrorism, but all that is stay behind. It's not more in the narrative. This is raw, clear, directed to the oil issue, and the United States has says like two things. We need to control Venezuelan oil in order to make money, and we need to guarantee that Venezuela no longer sell oil to our enemies. Those two facts they have actually mentioned. It's not like a supposition, it's not an hypothesis. They just mentioned. And of course, there you have to say that even before the attack on January 3rd, you have all these military deployments that in the last weeks of December were centered into an oil embargo. They took the different oil tankers from Russia, from China, from the different countries that were, well, not exactly the countries, because as we know, in the global market, the oil sales, it's about oil companies. So that could maybe belong to a company in Russia, in China, in Turkey, but it's actually an oil company. They took all of them, and as a result, in December in Venezuela, there was no income, no oil income for Venezuela. So that was a really difficult situation, even before the attack. And it has two results, two consequences of that. That on the one hand, most of those industries are the ones which we have tried in the last 10 years of sanctions. We have been building this relationship in order to guarantee that they invest in Venezuela, in order to guarantee the oil industry production. Because after the sanctions, the national income in Venezuela has decreased in a very important percentage. In the bottom of the whole situation, in the more down point, we have only 1% of the current oil income. So with that situation, with the sanctions, it's impossible for Venezuela to guarantee oil production. So that's an important issue. We have been trying to build different kind of alliances with, particularly with the West, because the United States has established like a quarantine on Venezuelan oil. Since 2015, only Chevron still operates in Venezuela, but the rest of the companies has stay aside because the sanctions forbid it. So the last 10 years, Venezuela have trying to build different alliances with Russia, with China, with Turkey, with different countries. But the point is that with this embargo of the last 3 months of the year of 2025, you have basically attacked with a missile, this framework of alliances with different countries of the West. So that's an important issue. And at the same time, you are attacking with a missile the upcoming alliances for investment in oil in Venezuela. So what I'm trying to say here is that even before the attack, already the United States has demolished all the possibilities of Venezuela of oil production. That's the reason that what I think, my hypothesis is that in the last months of the year, the talks between Maduro and Trump were about the common necessity to have an alliance in order to produce and distribute oil. On the one hand, I already explained what was our situation forced by the United States. But in their side, what we can see is that the US today produce something like 40 million barrels of oil per day, and that makes them the most important producer of oil in the planet. But they actually need 50 million per day of barrels. So they are not they have a problem there. And at the same time, their own production it's in the most high point. They only will decrease from this point. And also, an important fact is that the oil refineries in the US, because I think that in the 60s and so on, the US has this projection that they will control the oil in the region. So most of the refineries are adapted to the type of oil that we have here in Venezuela, which is a heavy oil or extra heavy oil. So they don't have more possibilities. And as Trump has mentioned, from a geopolitical point of view, they are like reloading this Monroe Doctrine, trying to put aside Russia and China and to guarantee a new period of dominance in the region. And the first priority was about the oil, and I think that is represented in this situation. So the the summary of this point is that I think that there was a common necessity to establish a cooperation in order to produce oil. And the US decided that they need to guarantee leverage on Venezuela because they haven't had a political change, a regime change in Venezuela because they can't. They have two possibilities. On the one hand, you don't have any right or far right sector in Venezuela, which is capable of at the same time guarantee political mobilization, institutional control, military control than Bolivarian revolution. It's the only political sector that has this capacity at this moment because the far right opposition has gone away from Venezuela, so they don't have political basis. That's the reason, because in the last weeks, the mainstream media they put in the cameras some celebrations about the deposition of Maduro in Venezuela. But all those images are in Spain, in Miami, in any other country different than Venezuela. They try to convince that it doesn't happen in Venezuela because in Venezuela it's a lot of repression and so on. But I can say to you from here, from Venezuela, that there is not only no repression. If instead, in the other hand, you have like a lot of possibilities. So speaking from here, I can say that I don't see any of those people that's supposed to go to vote for Maria Corina and Edmundo Gonzalez in 2024. I can see them. Of course, there is people against the government, but they don't have that political basis. That was a lie. And at the same time, fortunately, they don't have capacity of destabilization. They had some extreme groups that tried to promote violence in 2024. Most of them are in jail because they violate the law. But instead, not only in jail, they actually they don't have capacity in order to promote violence at this moment, at this point. They don't have any ascendance in the national institutions. They don't have pressure, the presence in the military sector in order to promote a coup d'etat. So basically, if the U.S. Wants decide to promote a change of regime in Venezuela, they will have to invade, actually occupy Venezuela with thousands of troops, take the power, and then of course they can put like a puppet. You know, they can put Maria Corina or whoever they want, but basically they will need to take control of the country. And that's both too expensive from an economical point of view and too expensive from a political point of view. Trump has this midterm election in November this year. And in the last decades in the United States, nobody has won any election, meanwhile having a war overseas. So that's very difficult to think that he can convince the most of the population in the U.S. that they will deploy troops in Venezuela would be a good thing, and the people will go to vote for them, for him. So all these facts that I'm putting together is because what we are right now administrating here in Venezuela is like a really difficult situation where the US has a enormous pressure on our government, but still is our government. I mentioned that because some people has proposed the thesis that this is a government absolutely controlled by the US, which is a puppet situation or some tutelage situation. It's a difficult situation, but still we have the government. And we are making maneuvers in order to guarantee the national sovereignty. I think that the most accurate image is to talk that we are defending the republic that we have built with all the sovereignty and democracy that we have guaranteed during these years. As an example of that, I will tell you that nobody knows because mainstream doesn't promote it. But yesterday, you have Delcy Rodriguez, which is our current vice president, which has take as a acting president. She was in a commune here in Caracas, and she was talking to the commoners of three things. One of them, it's talking about the model that we have been building, developing economics, and building a new system, a political system centered in the control of the communes. At the same time, she was talking about all this process of guarantee that all the revenues, the income from the sailings, from the oil sales, are directed to two important funds. She has created two national funds, one directed to social protection for the population, for the working class and everybody, and the second one directed to service infrastructures, public infrastructure at every level. And those are the main funds of the government at this moment. So she has proposed, last week we had this, she made, I don't know if you saw something of that, I will share to you. But last week is happened this national fair of communal economy, and there was the president, and she mentioned, here is the model of economics that we need to build and strengthen. So far, we have promoted the different alliances with productive sectors, but the communal economy is the strategical one, is the one that should guarantee the national sovereignty. She announced the launching of different food production plans, programs, which are directed to the most important uh, uh, food products of our culture. The black beans, the rice, the corn. And what she mentioned is the equilibrium that we're trying to build at this point. It's about to guarantee that all the income from the oil, we put it in those two funds. But the whole national economy should not depend of that. We will try to not put the oil income in the national economy. We should try to build a national economy not dependent from the oil income. So the main goal in order to achieve that is to guarantee that we satisfy the national necessities of consumption. In that matter, we have been advancing because 90% of the most important consumption necessities, it's covered by national production. So, I mean, the main idea here is that we are facing this big challenge, trying to fight against an enemy that, of course, it's very powerful, but not only very powerful. But also they have rules of war that we don't share. So they are a genocide nuclear potence, and we are a peaceful democratic people. So we can fight in the same level because we actually don't believe in the same things. That's the main picture, and from that I have to say, recently we promote this oil law reform, which has been a very interesting process. I think that will be maybe interesting to have a specific session to talk about this with details, maybe. But what I can tell you, like the main tips of it, is that we guarantee to protect the core issues of our oil law decreed by Hugo Chavez, by Commander Chavez, which is that the Bolivarian, the oil belongs to Venezuela, and our people have the the sovereign management of the oil that we have in our country. So what we have put in this law is to change like two issues. One of them is referred to the possibilities of investment. In the last, when we had like in 2008, we have an oil income around 60 billions of dollars. We have the possibility to say our oil industry will produce and will distribute. We have the money to do it. But right now, as I mentioned before, in the last 10 years, we haven't had the money to do that. So the model that we have been putting together is that we don't have only some associations, because we have some societies with some companies for the production of oil in different regions of our country. For example, you can have in the middle region of Venezuela, you can have these alliances, these societies with China, with China companies, with Chevron, with different companies. That actually happens. That has happened in the last 20 years. But in the last 10 years, we have promoted this new model that is not an association in a company that belong to both of us. Right now, what we have been doing in the last years with actually with Chevron is that we said, well, you can invest in here. You can invest on production, you can invest on distribution, and you need to pay me for that. The oil belongs to me. The only right is for the moment that we agree, we have this contract that you are producing a specific amount of oil and that you can distribute it, and you give us a fee for that oil that you are taking. So that model of business is the one that we are promoting right now in the current reform. Some people say that this is changing, violating the whole Commander Chavez era definitions. But that actually is not true, because what Commander Chavez promoted is that we need to have control on our own oil. And instead of oil, the enormous pressure of the United States, so far, we were able to agree with them that we have the control of the oil. We give them the possibility to invest, to distribute, but they need to pay us a fee that should be around 30%. 30% is the standard. And we can negotiate if they, according to the conditions of this specific well, they need to decrease it. But that needs to be negotiated. They can pay what they want. And the second issue that we have promoted in this oil reform is that we can guarantee all this process of investment in different issues on the oil industry. Like, for example, this production, distribution, refinement, but that needs to be regulated by a contract also. So that's also a possibility. So basically, to this point, it has been very tough to negotiate that with the US, but so far we have been able to protect the core issues of our legislation.
The conditions of the communes and on-the-ground mobilizations and commune university, which would be giving people certain glimpses into what are still there, how you are defending the Bolivarian revolution on the ground.
The commune so far, we have this upcoming national people's consultation as the one that you knew some months ago in 2024. You were in the first one. This will be something like the ninth one, I think. It's the people's consultation, national people's consultation. The president has established as guidelines that the projects that the people votes in this consultation should be target to two different topics. She mentioned the priorities are the productive projects, the economic projects from the commune, and the second one, it's about infrastructure services for the community. Those are the two priorities for this people's consultation. And at this moment, the whole 5,000 communes are in the process of discussing which one are the projects that they will propose for the March 8th. March 8th will be the date of the National People Consultation. That's the International Day of the Women, of the struggles of the woman. So this National People Consultation has been given as a responsibility to the women in the commune. So the women are the ones that are organizing this National People Consultation, mainly. Of course, they are men also in the process, but mainly the women. Maybe I have to say that instead, if they don't mention that the women were the one organizing, even the woman will be organizing, because as you know, most of our spoken persons in the communes are women. So at the same time, we have, since the January 3rd till today, we have all these national mobilizations, all these street demonstrations, condemning the attack from the US and also demanding the liberation of our president, because our president is a prisoner of war in the US. So we are demanding the liberation of Maduro and Cilia Flores. Cilia, it's both his wife, but she is a national dirigent. She is a National Assembly deputy. So she's also a political person. We are demanding the liberation, and we are demanding the respect of our sovereignty. And that's something that you don't see in the news. That's something that nobody knows instead of us. Like a lot of people mobilizing in the streets, and that's like a common, like a tradition. Tomorrow we will have a national demonstration because it's the youth day here in Venezuela. In February 12th, 200 years ago, there was this important independence battles that were where the most important subject were the youth. So that's the reason that we celebrate on February 12th, the Youth Day, the Youth National Day. I could mention about in all that process, we have we are in a process of 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 guarantee the stabilization and strengthening of the national communes university. What we are doing right now, we have this period of initiation that started in October the last year, and that should finish in this March 2026. That process was centered in some common issues for each student, like, for example, about the educational method, but also taking issues referred to the planning, to the communal planning, because our model of university, as we have discussed before, is centered in the possibility that the university education needs to be a bridge between the communal planning and also and actually the the production processes, the whole transformation process. So we need to put the idea of the planning into an actual change of situation, an actual transformation in the commune. And for that, the university needs to establish a bridge between the idea and the action. So that's the reason that the planning, it's an important topic in our introductory process, our initiation process. Also, the communal economics, it's an important issue. So the main task that we have in this introductory process is about to have this economical mapping of each commune. So our students has this task of start this process of mapping the productive forces in the territory. And at the same time, we have these another topics referred to the communal laws, to the all national legislation referred to the communal project. So that's also an important issue. So at the end of this period, in March, they should start, each student should start the process in his specific area of knowledge. Like, for example, the people who's going to study veterinary medicine, the people who's going to study electrical engineering, the people who's going to study communal economics. So each one start the process of knowledge in their communities. At this moment, we are discussing the main issues of our project. We are in I mean, like in an internal process in the university of evaluation and balance of the months that we have so far, in order to guarantee to change the things that we need to change for this new period from March, and also to guarantee to strengthen the things that we need to strengthen. So at this moment, the authorities of the university are in this process of internal discussion in order to guarantee strengthening this process. Because as I mentioned to you before, here in Venezuela, we have 5,300 communes so far. Well, I mean, specifically, the figure is 5,336 communes so far. And we have, at this moment, something like 357 communes where the university is actually active. Those communes has postulated, that has promoted some students. As I mentioned before, in our university, the one who decides who's gonna study is the commune. And that decision needs to be referred to the planning of the commune. So if you mention in your planning that you need to develop the capacities of sheep production, and that's the reason, because you need some people educating in veterinary medicine, and then someone from the commune could say, I want to study that. And then the commune needs to say, well, but we need to have a commitment. We need that you answer to these goals that we have in our plan. In order to achieve that, we need that you study this. Do you agree? And if he agrees, then you have this agreement put in paper where everyone signs and says, okay, this is, and they go to us, to the university, and they say, this is the people that we are promoting to study in the university. So at this point, 357 communes have made that process that I described to you. That's something around, I think that the last figures were about like 5,000 students, maybe. I don't remember the specific number at this moment. But those students are actually developing their studies in this introductory process in their own communes. So what we are trying to guarantee now, it's something that it's quite important, Kinchi, because it's about how we build what we have called, let me see if the translation help me, something like integrational projects for communal transformation. What we are saying, what we are trying to put together here is a method that is based, not a specific a method, a tool, a methodological tool that can guarantee to organize the educational process in an organic way to the communes. What does it mean? We are trying to establish in the communes which one are the main projects that they need to develop, but not as specific and contingency projects. Not a project for 3 weeks or 2 months, like a long distance project. Like, for example, we were discussing if a commune has established as a goal that they need to guarantee the whole pork meat that they need to eat. They need to guarantee the pork meat consumption. And at the same time, they want to guarantee the distribution of pork meat in the locality where the commune is. So guarantee for the population of the commune, but also to distribute in a bigger area. That could be an example of an integrational project that should be the one that organize the action of the university. What we are discussing so far is that, well, if that's the project, we need to establish, we need to formulate with accuracy this project, and that should be the one that integrates the different areas of knowledge, referring to an important goal for the community. It's not more about that maybe the agriculture, engineering, discussing about how they can guarantee more capacity, more rates, more important rates of production, of having plague control techniques, not as an abstract, but as a current and a specific task. How could be he integrated or should be integrated in this integrational project? So far as we have discussed, like, for example, in order to guarantee the reproduction of the porks, you need to have a good study of what could be the different components of a good food for a good meal for the porks that should guarantee the necessary proteins and all the vitamins and all the nutrients that the pork needs. The pork that then will feed the families of the commune. So, like for example, that engineer of agriculture will will need to focus their process of education in that specific task required or the or link to this specific integration of project. This is a very technical and a specific issue, so I'm kind of struggling with the translation. But then the idea is that the veterinary medicine students are referred to the whole sanitary conditions for the porks, and also studying the development of the way that this alternative meal that we are studying on the one side, they are studying how the rate of development of the porks works, and they need to say, oh, we need maybe to change because there is something that is not good for them, you know. And at the same time, if you are talking about a system of distribution for the whole commune, maybe the people who is studying administration need to establish all the account system for the distribution. You say, okay, we are making like all these people's fair, all these people's market. Well, we need to have administrative control of all that process. We need to plan, we need to evaluate the results of that, and that should be the focus of the people who is studying administration. And if you need to promote people's markets from the commune, maybe someone who is studying, majoring in communications, has to establish the plan for publicizing, for advertising the whole system, that people should know how does it work, what are the difference with the communal economics, what are the difference between this pork from the commune and a pork from outside. So that's I'm trying to put together an example about the importance that we think that could have this instrument, this tool, methodological tool for the university, which is this integrational project. We're putting, particularly, I'm putting a lot of effort in that because I think that it's like some kind of anchor to guarantee to be linked to the goals of this university, which is going against the current of the whole inertia dynamics from the universities. Because if we don't do this, people will do the same things that we always do in the university. So you will have teachers talking about the same things that they always talk, and students that we won't go to the commune, they will be studying in their homes or maybe going to the classes and taking notes, but all of that like an abstract process, not linked to the reality. And actually, our in that model, our only result will be people with a diploma that they were graduated from the university, but with no results, specific results in the community. And the last thing that I want to mention is that we are in this process of reflection because in the capitalism, the market determines the investigation process, the educational process, the technological development. So we need, if we are struggling against capitalism, we need to make an alternative model to that. If we don't do that, we're actually doing a good thing because people is going to the university. We are in a democracy, so people can go no matter what, but they won't be serving to a new model or a new transformation. So that's the reason that I took so many time talking to you about that. The other issue that you mentioned is about the cabinet changes. You know, they have been something like six political changes in the cabinet. One of them is the communication minister. The key issue here is that all the people that you have changed people that already were in the government, that already were nearby the government, and maybe you are changing them from one position to another. And some new people, but that actually had already had some different task in the government. So it's no new people. You are not letting go people. So it's basically the same people from the government area. So it's not true that it's an important change and you are letting behind some people from Maduro's era. It's basically the same people. I put to you an example. Our former communication minister, which is called Freddy Ñañez, now is our eco-socialism minister, which in the common terms and international level is the one related to the environment issues. And our current communication minister is a guy who came from the international network of intellectuals. I don't know if you know that network. He calls Miguel Pérez Pirela, and he was very close to Maduro. So it's not like a real important change. Oh, people we don't know. It's a twist on the direction. No, it's basically the same people with the same, and people coming from the Bolivarian Revolution movement. Not necessarily from the party. Some of them are part of the party. Some of them not. But that's like a common issue of this era because you have technical leadership and then you have political leadership. You have like the same. Another example, the industry minister. We have both. We have two different ministers. One for the industry development and one for the commerce, for the trade. You have different ministries. Well, Delcy took the decision to put together those two ministers, to fusion those ministries, and now you have only one minister. And you took one of those two and you put it in the front of that minister, you know? So there is no big change over there. The other ones are tourism. You change and you put a younger person, a youth leader that actually was part of that ministry, but not with the same task. So it was the person. She's called Daniela Cabello. She was the one leading a national project of a national what do you call that, trademark, like the hecho en Venezuela, made in Venezuela. She was uh, promoting all this process, and now she is our tourism minister. And the other changes that are not much changes, it's about economics. So far, the position that some years ago had our common friend Jose Felix, it was economics by president. But when Jose Felix were no more, it was like a responsibility that the vice president took herself. So Delcy Rodriguez were the former vice president, economics vice president. And right now she puts, because she is the acting president, she put someone from she put the guy who is the Central Bank of Venezuela president, she put him in the front of that vice presidency, of economics vice president. I don't see like an important change over there. Then, of course, you can have like a more detailed characterization of each person, but it's not true that it's a big change, it's a big twist. It's basically a reaccommodation, an internal reaccommodation of task. I think that those are the most important changes that there has been in the cabinet. So there's not true that there has been like an important issue. I think that probably, and I think that's at the beginning of each year, it should it's like traditional to have some changes in the cabinet because you kind of evaluate at the end of the year and then you took decisions. Maybe some of these decisions were already made by Nicolas Maduro. And also, if I will be president in a situation so difficult like this, it's important to have the possibility to say, oh, I prefer to work with Jade and I will change this other person, you know? I think that's kind of rational to me.
And yeah, these are my main questions. I don't know whether Jade, do you have anything that you would like to chat on?
Yeah, and I would like to ask about the currency. I mean whether because of now situation, is it the currency has any change or only US dollar are the king and no more Bolivar currency. Yeah, this is related. Yeah, oil and also relate to the US dollar. So US dollar hegemony. Yeah. And of course, because Camille and it's always my question, the land and the money. So how about the land not land reform or the nowadays? Yeah, the new situation. Yeah, something like that. Because relate to food sovereignty. Yeah.
With the currency issue, you know that never in Venezuela have been like a legal decision to change the national currency. We use the dollar as a de facto consequence of the international sanctions. So, in order to guarantee the possibilities to sustain the international commerce, the dollar has been something like we use here on the inside, but that was actually like an illegal measure, not only for Venezuela legislation, but also for the U.S. because they don't allow us to do that. We cannot ask for some dollars from the Department Treasury. Instead of that, we trade with dollars that we have in here. That maybe someone sell oil and you have some dollars that goes into the national market, and someone who maybe sell coffee and then they put some dollars in the national economy. So what has happened, if you took that image and you think in the last month of the last year that I mentioned to you before, one important component of that national composition of the market is the dollars that comes from the oil sales. If in December of 2025 it didn't come any dollar, of course it contributes to the increasing of the what they call that the black market dollar rate, and then which is part of our complex situation at this moment. In January, when we start this process of tough negotiation with the US, and they start selling oil, because what they didn't allow us to do is what they are now promoting, is the complexity and the contradiction. They are promoting to sell the oil from Venezuela, and we have an oil income in the last weeks. That's the money which the one we are doing a national people's consultation. So it's important to say that it's like, I don't know, it's like judo or aikido, where you use the force of your enemy in order to put against him. So we are building socialism with the money that comes from that sale. But the point here is that what I want to mention is that in the previous image, when in January it enters some dollars into the national economy, it has as a consequence a decrease in the black market dollar rate. So that's something that has happened. And our current struggle is how to guarantee that most of the population understands that that's a consequence of our Bolivarian revolution trying to defend our interests with the US. Because at the same time, you have like this Trump emperor, the evil emperor of the world, saying, well, right now we will bring a better situation for Venezuela. Venezuela is going to be very well. And he's trying to take, to be the one responsible for that improvement of the situation. So right now, that's part of our complexity. How to let know that for our people, that is about our struggle, and it's not about the Trump actions. But that's the thing that maybe I can refer to the currency. The other fact that maybe I can mention on that specific issue, Jadi, is that in the last months, because our central bank and our economics ministry has been maneuvering in order to guarantee an stabilization in the rate of change from the dollar. So where you have no gap between the official rate and the black market rate. When that happens, it stabilizes the national consumption market. So that's the thing that we have been trying to build during the last months. And one of the consequences of that is that people increase the Bolivar operations. So at this moment, most of the people in Venezuela prefers to buy with bolivars, than with dollars, So what has happened I think that in the last year, is that it has increased a lot all the national transactions in dollars, in bolivars, in bolivars. So our currency has been strengthening during the last period. Of course, it has had some lower points because all the attack has meant like a crisis situation, and all the period from September, where it started the process of deployment, of military deployment of U.S. imperialism. Of course, it has resulted in a bad economical situation.
So could you also say how is the supply of commodities, food, and other things now? Is that also improving? And then the other question is also many people went out fearing the possibility of war. So have the people come back in these few months, in these weeks?
There are two answers. The first one is that as a consequence of this increase of the capacity of the production of the national consumption, as a result, in all these weeks, and even from the last year, the final period of the year, we didn't have any difficulties with the inner consumption. So you can find anything in the market everywhere. We haven't had that kind of problem so far. And the other issue, I think that it's some kind of fabrication, that idea that a lot of people went away from Venezuela as a result of the attacks. It actually didn't happen. I can't deny that some people maybe go, but that wasn't an important rate. Between another reasons, because we don't have the possibility to have commercial flights, and you see by our with our in our border with Colombia, that's one of the ways in order to go out. But that rate of going in and out hasn't changed uh, very dramatically in the last month. So that's not something that has happened so far. I didn't see that people is coming a lot from coming back so far. So far that I have seen, that it's not neither a consequence. Uh, because and that's I want to mention an important remark referring to that. Our migration from Venezuela is not like a symmetrical one from the political point of view. I think that actually most of the people that migrates, it's people who is against Bolivarian revolution. It's people who says Venezuela is the worst. They have broken it. We can go there. There is dictatorship. I was so bad that I need to flee. And that actually has been complemented by all these state policies from the other countries. For example, in Spain, where you have a lot of Venezuelan migration, the Spanish government established a policy where if I come from Venezuela, I can sign for a petition to be like a refugee, political refugee. And we actually are not refugees according to the international laws, because no one is pursuing you. No one has say go out or we will kill you. That's just a Hollywood imagination. But when Spain do that, if I'm a migrant from Venezuela and I come and I say, well, if I enter in a regular way, maybe it will be difficult to be to have the possibility to work or to have some studies, some education process. But if I sign for this petition for refugee, they will help me with work, they will help me for education, they will help me for another rights. So of course I will sign that petition, you know? And that of course it's like accompanied by some political actors that promote that you need to act like an actual refugee. So people enter in characters. So people actually at the first moment it's like an administrative decision, and then they need to start all these characters. So I'm the Venezuelan who has been pursued. Maybe I work in the bakery shop, and from here and I said, yeah, there's the dictator, and we need to flee, and they start to uh, be like a promoter of all this narrative against Venezuela. So that's something that is happening. That's something that is happening all abroad. And when I mention that it's not symmetric, is because that is not the same framework of the people who lives here. The people who lives here, doesn't talk about dictatorship and pursuing and stuff, because first of all, that's not true. That's not the reality that we live every day. Even could be people who is against government, but of course they don't say lies. They don't say there's dictatorship and repression and stuff, because that's not true. That's a product for export. That's not a national consumption product. And so most of the people here thinks in the necessity to work, in the necessity to develop, in the necessity to the people, to the things going better. So that's an important issue to mention, and that's the reason because that's the reason because I think that most of those people won't come back, because maybe right now they are fine over there. Maybe they will only come back if they throw them away from there. That is something that could happen. Maybe funny anecdote is that after the January 3rd in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, where you have like a lot of migrants, far right migrants, they made this demonstration in one of the public squares. And Patricia Bullrich, which is a far right minister of the Argentinian government, went there and she was like, "Yes, we took the dictatorship down," and they were celebrating. And at the point where the people were celebrating, she said, "And now you can come back to your country." And the people were like, "Oh," we're all like, "Oh no." Because they don't want to come back. They prefer to stay outside. They have all those conditions there. It's the last comment that I will make about this issue is that it's a sad and critical situation, because what the system has been able to do, not only to the migrants from Venezuela, but in a general matter with all the migrants in Latin America and the Caribbean, it's a process of how could I say? It's like a process of a right movement. They are going into a right frame of thought, which is very, very dangerous. As a big example, you can say that, for example, in the US, all the anti-ICE movement is mainly people from the US. It's not necessarily migrant movement. Some of them, of course, will be afraid of all the repression, the actual repression that nobody talks about. There's a big repression in the US, but mostly no migrants. And on the other hand, you have like all these statistics that a lot of migrants vote for Trump. A lot of migrants in the US right now are current supporters of Trump. And that's part of all these righteous frame of thought that they have built for our migrants. And of course, it's important in the US because each day you have more migrants in the country and you are regularizing. So you need to think about those demands and you need to control all that important mass of population. So that's a thing that I want to mention. Moving forward in the other aspects that you mentioned, so far the land issue it's steady. There is no change in that direction. Uh, Everyone who has occupied and recuperate land during the Bolivarian Revolution, it's exactly at the same situation. Uh, of course, most of the peasants movement here in Venezuela have been mobilizing during the last month against the US, asking for the liberation of Maduro. So with the land issue, we haven't had a change in the last period. For the working class, well, is the working class the one who is mobilizing? And and I have to say that a lot of the working class has took as a good thing the announcements that have been made by the acting president, because when she says, well, we're gonna to prioritize the social protection and the infrastructure of services, most of the people agrees with that. So people, it's okay with that. uh, and as a result of the nearby crisis, it's only a month that has happened since a bombing that has been a trauma situation for all the nation. People is more available to listen the things that the government says, because Delcy is not saying different things than Maduro. But before the bombing, the people were not listening. Maybe right now, it doesn't mean that they are listening a lot. But of course, you are a little more aware because you need to know what's going on. So the recent announcements, and also I think that the whole government has refreshed in his public view, because a lot of people feels confident, feel trust, because you have a serious and responsible government, which is a guarantee of national peace and stabilization. So that's an important issue. Delcy at this point supposed to have something between 70% and 80% of national support, according to some studies. So that's an important issue, because of course in this uh, daily basis confrontation with the US, the thing that we guarantee, the governance of the country, it's an important leverage for us, because of course, if Trump needs to bring oil to the US and to have a better condition for the inner economy in the US, he needs to work with the Bolivarian revolution, because we are the only ones that guarantee the stability that the oil companies need in order to invest. So that's a complex situation that we're living right now. The the final issue that I have here is about the reconciliation. What we're having right now, it's a process that has been it's maybe referred to this issue that we discussed before about the migration. What you can see here in Venezuela, it's some kind of polarization between the people who goes away and the people who stays here, because the people who goes away is like a good example of the framework of thought of those people is the ones who celebrate the bombing in Venezuela. Only someone who lives very far could be thinking like, yeah, good bombing. If you live here, of course you can be uh, celebrating for a bombing, because a bomb can bomb me away. That's that. Everybody knows that. So that's an important uh, an image of the situation, because that has like established some kind of polarization where the people who stays here put us together like more close. We are more close, the Bolivarian people, the Chavismo, with the people from who is against the government but doesn't want bombing. And that's something that happened in the common area, in the whole population, in the national country, but at the same time happened in the political level, in the political country. They say the Cubans talk about the political country, for all the people who is related to the politics. And you can see that the Bolivarian Party, the Socialist Party, it's going to discussions with the right parties, opposition parties, but that are not far right parties. They are against blockade, they are against sanctions, they are against bombing, they want the economics to recovery. And that's something that is not a consequence from the January 3rd. That is something that Bolivarian Revolution has been working in the last years, because we realize that one of the conditions that the US has worked on is that there are some Venezuelan far-right sectors asking for sanctions. That's a good excuse for them in order to guarantee this policy. One of the important issues is that I think that most of the people here can see that those far-right sectors represented in Maria Corina Machado, who ask for more military action and more pressure, ask for sanctions, they are foolish because they can't see that they won't have the power. Actually, the agenda of the US is not to change the political system in Venezuela. Of course, there is an ideological goal referred to defeat socialism and defeat an ally of your enemies and defeat someone who is criticizing imperialism. That's in the ideological level. But the main level here, it's about the geopolitical control of the oil. So instead of the different situations, of the different contingencies, we think that the goal for the US won't change. The US needed to control the oil in Venezuela. And all the things that they have put together in the narrative is more about excuses to guarantee some narrative to try to soften the thing that they will actually do. No matter what, Republicans or Democrats, they will go in that way. So I'm saying all this because what you can see now is like this amnesty law, of course, was a demand of the US, is one of the things that they have been making pressure. But at the same time, in this judo situation that we are right now, this aikido situation that we are doing right now, we have actually embraced it because it allows us to dismantle possibilities of destabilization. We don't give them excuses to keep going attacking us, because if we actually condemn all these people, we give pardon to the whole people that promoted destabilization. Right now, as part of this contradiction moment that we are living, the ones that should be worried if they promote destabilization are the gringos, are the US government. Because if they went to the street and they promote destabilization, maybe they will send away the possibilities of stabilization that the oil company needs, you know? So that's the critical situation that we're now. So probably is Trump the one that is asking them to be. Actually, you can find a post from something like 2 weeks ago, I think, or 3 weeks, where Trump kind of made a threat to them. He said something like, remember that we are the one that are promoting that you went out. So remember that you owe to us. So he was basically saying, keep quiet by the moment, because it's not the time that you went so all crazy. As an example, 2 days ago, one of the main leaders of the far right and promoter of terrorism and destabilization, he went free 2 days ago. And the same moment that he went free, he started in the social networks calling for the streets and let's go to there and let's go back and let's make some terror in the streets. And like 3 hours then after that, they took him away and put him in jail again. And of course, the government position where he was violating the conditions of the agreement, because the law actually proposed that you need to, we will give you a pardon, but you need to guarantee the conditions of peace. You can't promote terrorism. You can't promote violence. So I think that that's something important, because, as I mentioned before, the people outside, that is something that is happening to the far right sectors, from the background, from the grassroots to the top, from the people who is migrant in Spain to Maria Corina. They are promoting to have sanctions and military and violence, but that's something very unpopular for the people who lives here. The people who lives here, no matter if it's Chavista or is opposition, we both don't want any violence. We don't want military attacks. So that's important because it gives political density to this reconciliation process. If we go together in order to contempt that, that's an important advance for the moment, for the critical moment that our republic is living right now. This amnesty law put like some some cases that can be part of the amnesty law. For example, the corruption cases, the big important corruption cases, the homicide cases, murder cases, the very grave, the crimes against humanity, and the crimes that has caused like a very terrorist actions. Those are like I don't know the word, but they can be part of the amnesty. They can have pardon in these 4 cases that I mentioned. Did I explain myself? So you can have the pardon, you can have access to this amnesty and go to and be free with no charges, only if you are not part of a very grave corruption case, or an homicide murder case, or promotion of grave terrorist actions, or crimes against humanity. In those 4 cases, you can have pardon. That's part of the law. So I think that, well, the last thing you mentioned about the main challenges, I think that right now we have as a challenge to have national unity in order to defend our sovereignty, to defend the republic, constitution, the laws, the things that we have achieved during these 27 years. We need to promote that, at the same time having the unity in order to reject imperialist attack, in order to prevent, to guarantee peace, to at all costs defend peace. Because what we have seen so far is that we can have the kind of war that the US can give us, that can promote in Venezuela. It won't be a fair war. Of course, the war is a horrible scenario. But when I talk about a fair war, or it's where we can confront that what we have in our minds is that they will come, the Yankees over here, and they will try to attack us and we will repel them. But that wasn't the thing that happened. It's a distant war. It's a war with no possibilities of defense. It's a very cruel war. It's a very violent situation. Like, for example, I was talking to the friends in the nearby meeting that we have from Alba, and I tell them, we have this horizontal capacity of war. Horizontal because we are all the same. We have like fossils. We have our weapons in order to defend ourselves. and we are more about the all people's war, going to guerrilla, going to a different kind of war, more nearby to Vietnam experience, and even the war experiences from China at some period. But that's very different from the vertical war from the US. At the night of January 3rd, what you can have, because with the pass of the days, we have seen more details of the situation. You have Kimchi Jade in that day. You have no uh, no military forces touching the floor in Venezuela. They were all in the sky. So you have like a sky with different levels, and you have one level for drones, you have one level for choppers, helicopters, you have one level for combat planes, another level for bombing planes, another level for communications, and another kind of deployment navies, planes. So all of them were backing up together in order to attack directly to the ground. And at the same time, the the Navy ships in the Caribbean also fire some tomahawks and another missiles into Caracas. So how can we combat that? They never go to the possibility to defend, and that's something that we need to have, like the awareness of what does it mean. The kind of war technology that imperialism has been developing is not only about military superiority. It's also about distance. It's also about this depersonalized. It's a lot about intimidation. Most of the attacks that we have registered so far are explosions of the people. If I took my phone, I explode. If I took a weapon, the drone scan it and explode me. So it's also about demonstration of evilness in order to intimidate. So that's a very cruel war that could be redundant, but I think that they have been able to build a new style, a new level of cruelty and evilness in war. So that's something that it's a very important challenge for our peoples. I was also talking about this with our friends, our brothers from Cuba, because right now they are in the center of the threat of the U.S. And of course, as in the same way as us, we say we're here to defend our country and we will fight and we will struggle. But what do you do when you don't have even the possibility to fight? When you have cowards, when you have genocides on the other side, and they have developed this kind of war of cowards and genocide. So that's a very complicated challenge. The other challenge, it's about our capacity to guarantee the national unity in order to defend government, in order to defend the peace, in order to demand for the liberation of Maduro, because that's an important issue. I think that it's important to go against the things that they have tried to implement and naturalize. We are afraid right now about the whole things that we are naturalizing at this moment, not the Venezuelans, all the region and all the planet. Because at this day, we have 9 military Navy ships in the Caribbean, in the whole region. They have occupied our territory with, of course, no legal background. The last week, they put in Haiti in the Haiti capital, in Port-au-Prince, they put 3 military Navy ships. Allegedly because they are going to contribute to guarantee the national order. So they are basically militarizing the continent, and we are now talking about. And you can see that maybe the governments like Lula or Petro from Colombia or Sheinbaum from Mexico are like trying to have uh, like a moderate position in order to not fight, not to generate some conflict with Trump, in order to be, it's like be steady. It's like make the fool. Try to make like you are all calm, and maybe he will pass, and he will go against you. So it's a very naive position, I think, because the U.S. is going in order, and that this is an important issue. This is an initiative, a political initiative from the US in order to recompound the whole hegemony in the world. This is what it is about. And that's very important to see, because that means that this is a war against all, against everyone. And if we think that if we keep quiet and we fake like we are, we say here some expression like, if I fake like I'm playing dead, they it won't happen anything. That's a big naivety, but it's a dangerous situation, because this is the moment. One of the main challenges is to unify the movement and the political parties, political organization, sectors from different sectors of society. Everyone need to put together in a front against Trump, against imperialism. Trump is a good figure at this moment, because I don't think that Trump makes the decision. I think that Trump is an expression of the elites of the West necessities. So that's something that we need to assume, but it's important to combat him, because he still has enemies, and Trump, it's a possibility of unify, because he's the very big expression of all the things that we need to struggle against. He's white supremacist, he's misogynist, he's a rapist, he's a pedophile, he's a xenophobe, he's, of course, a big capitalist, he's one of the oligarchs of the world, he's a warmonger, promoter. So he's, of course, big imperialist. So he has all the reasons, because we need to fight against. So we need to unify, making him a symbol, but actually sending a message to the whole imperialism. Because I think that if we been able to defeat Trump, probably the whole elites of the US will guarantee the continuity of some things. They need the Venezuelan oil. So for them, there won't be any change over there. And different issues, they will have no difference with the Trump policy. But it's an important message to put all the effort in order to confront. And that's the point where we have even points of joining with the anti-ICE demonstrations in the US. That's a common cause, and that all could be part of a big front on the international level. So yes, maybe I think that the most important challenges are about to guarantee mobilization in order to protect peace. In the case of Venezuela, to defend our sovereignty and our government, and to protect our unity in that matter, but also to promote in another level unity from the global south, And I think that even the peripheric sectors in within the global north, because as for example the anti-ICE demonstrations, those are our allies at this moment, and that's a very important issue to guarantee right now. Oh, and maybe the first challenge is that the whole, if it's terrifying, the whole technology of war that they have and they have deployed, I think that one of the more terrifying technologies that they have is in the ground of the communications or the cultural confirmation. The cultural hegemony is something horrific. An example, I was talking to the friends that there are things that you don't know, and all this technological empire won't allow you to know. You know, like for example, if Delcy Rodriguez goes to a commune each day of the week, she always go to a commune, as I mentioned you before. Nobody knows about that. Nobody knows. And on the other hand, because on the one hand that means misinformation. You don't have the actual information of what's happening. And at the same time, you have a lot of fake information. So you have a lot of lies, and that's the thing that you actually consume. So you just don't see that, but at the same time, what you hear and you see and you read is that Delcy made a treason, she made a pact with the CIA and the US government, and that she's demolishing the laws from Hugo Chavez, and she's delivering the country, you know? And that's a critical situation because all the world is consuming that vision. All the world is far from reality, from the truth, and it's absolutely close to all the fake information that they have actually generated in order to guarantee this offensive from the imperialism. So the amount of laboratories, the amount of different networks, the amount of different technologies that they have deployed at this moment is actually terrifying. And one of the most terrifying things is that we are not seeing it. We don't see it because it's not a bomb. You see a bomb, but this thing that I mentioned, it's absolutely unadvertised for all of us. We didn't see it. We didn't, and that's one of the most dangerous things for this moment because related to that is the naturalization of a lot of things that they are doing. I want to mention a last thing, which is, the last week we have seen a deputy from the legislative power in the U.S. from the Congress, a congressman from the U.S., Bernie Moreno. He said, "I think," because they were asking him about the results of the reunion between Trump and the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro. And he said, I think that each time the military forces of the US are achieving to change the point of views of the politics of the presidents of Latin America and the Caribbean. That's so terrifying. If we let to sleep and naturalize that the US can impose by the military force, it's a very, very big threat for our region in our planet because we start to naturalize it. And I think when I heard him, I think in the people who votes in Latin America and maybe in Ecuador, maybe in Colombia, maybe in Honduras, the people will say, well, if we are going to start a process of war or confrontations with the US, it will make us live worse. So maybe it will be better if I vote by the people who Trump indicates. And that's a real threat that we have right now in front of us. That's a threat for the common people. That's a threat for the parties. That's a threat for the government. That's a threat for the whole institutions. That's something that we need to discuss. We need to see. It's a very critical moment. I think it's some friends said the last week something that I agree, and that it's very, very Chinese thinking. They said every crisis, it's also an opportunity in order to advance. So I think that's the moment that we're living right now. It's a very critical moment. It's a dangerous crisis, and we need to be able to use it as a possibility, as an opportunity to advance, to unify our forces, to politicize our forces. That's something that we need to do because, of course, you can understand Venezuela, what's going on, without thinking in the whole geopolitical level. This is an expression of a geopolitical uh, fight. This is a global war that we are living at this moment.
It's very good, Hernan. Of course, I still have more questions, but then I would just like to express that having listened to you, then I feel much more confident about because this in Venezuela, this has been a process of over 20 years that people have been organizing, and that there have been these parallel processes starting from Chavez to build people's power. And that has materialized, and this has been so important. And now today we also see the results of that mobilization, of that self-organizing, which you have expressed just now in telling us how the people are reacting. And I also agree with you on all these points, but I think I would like to highlight two things. One is there was all these outcry and condemnations from most countries in the United Nations about this infringement and violation of the sovereignty of Venezuela. This is an undeniable fact, and so nobody could deny that Venezuela's sovereignty was being violated by seizing a president, an elected president, that you can just arbitrarily accuse as a drug trafficker and whatever, and put him under US law. So at that moment, actually, US was losing a lot of credibility by that act. But then what followed was that there should have been some strong expression of disagreement. For example, some countries could recall their ambassadors. I think that should be the least thing they could be doing, to recall the ambassadors to the US, or to do something which is more than just symbolic, more than just giving lip service, to say that that is a violation of another country's sovereignty, that is against international law. But then what we have seen there was that there were some discussions at the Security Council, and everybody, of course, knew that US would veto anything, and then nothing happened. Nothing happened after all these denunciations. So I think I agree very much with you that it was very naive of Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, of these countries that could still have some say, could still at least come up with some posture, some gesture of defiance, some gesture that could be symbolic. Just do something symbolic. But then they didn't even do that. So I think that it's the same thing that happened in Middle East when Iran was attacked. So there were some of these denunciations, and that And this week, and a very mild protest, verbal protest, assured the US that they could do what they like without any consequence, at all. So I think that happened in the Middle East, and that's happened in Venezuela. And so now we see that Iran is putting a very strong posture to say that if you attack us, then we will attack you. And so you see, and I really hope that no war, they are not going to attack Iran, but you never know from these crazy people. They think they can do anything they like. They think they can be paying a very, very minimal price, but then get a lot of benefits. So the first thing I think that Trump was saying to the public was that no US soldier was harmed. We didn't suffer any loss in terms of military aircraft or military personnel, and we have achieved this success. So I think what you said, it was very important. We also have we have a saying in Chinese that for the body, without your lips, your teeth would be left in chill. That is to say that if you, the lips would be there as the outer layer to protect protect your mouth, but then when the lips are gone, your teeth would be left in chill. And so that referred to some of the history in the past, that when one neighboring country got attacked and you didn't move at all to defend them, actually it was to defend yourself. And so if you didn't move to defend the one who's been threatened, you will be the next turn, and you cannot complain. So I think what is supporting the US hegemony, including military hegemony and financial hegemony and all these, and also including the cultural hegemony, is this acquiescence that this kind of surrendering and hoping that by appeasing them, by trying to look mild or try to disappear from the sight of the US imperialists, that you can escape their aggression. So I think that is something which is really important in terms of geopolitics and in terms of the kind of diplomacies of these countries. So it's not just the question that people say United Nations is dead, that it is totally irrelevant. It's the question that some of these countries, each individual country, could have emphasized their sovereignty, or could have done something to give support. So I think that is, a very major betrayal, and that betrayal will come back on them. So now you also mentioned Cuba, and I think Cuba is really under a lot of threat, and I heard that it seems that China sent some rice, sent tons of rice to Cuba, and I think, but then Cuba has not had any oil at all since Maduro's capture, since that ban. So I think there should be this solidarity for Cuba and for Venezuela. So maybe you could tell us a bit more later about the solidarity that has been demonstrated, for example, from the MST, from ALBA, or the kind of solidarity that have been expressed for Cuba. I think maybe you can say something, and we can put that as a contrast to what the states, the politicians have been doing. I think we can add that part. And then maybe we can add that part now, so we can put it. And then I have more questions about the Communes University. So please, about how has there been the solidarity from the neighboring countries or from the people's movements in Latin America?
I think that in this moment of this critical offense from the US against the whole world in order to recover his whole hegemony, it's critical to unify our forces in order to confront that. And that's something that is at the same time like a total counteroffensive and defense against imperialism, but at the same time has specific targets to defend. In this moment, Venezuela and Cuba are very important targets to defend. These last weeks, all the threats against Cuba are terrible. The last years, it's a very common situation. The revolutionary process in Latin America has received blockades. War with a stage of big blockade, Venezuela in the last 10 years, Cuba in the last 50 years. There's a terrible blockade that at this point, it's almost in a point of genocide because when you attack Venezuela, you decrease the capacity of support Cuba. Cuba and Venezuela are, as we say, a same flag. We are brothers, we're comrades. But of course, all these attacks have decreased our capacity. The last ship oil tanker that we sent from Venezuela were in December. But after that, Cuba hasn't had any support. Mexico has tried to guarantee the support, but the US immediately has declared sanctions against Mexico if they try to send oil to Cuba. In the last weeks, we have seen a very important struggle from Mexico in order to defend the right to send oil to the Cuban people, but the US doesn't allow it. At the same time, Mexico has said, well, we still would send humanitarian aid, and they send food and they send all different stuff. That actually also happened with Russia and China. Both sent humanitarian aid to Cuba in the last period. And at the same time, you can see, as we have seen a lot of demonstrations in the continent and different countries of the world, supporting Venezuela, condemning the attack, condemning and asking for the liberation of Nicolás Maduro as president of Venezuela, you can also see demonstrations in support of Cuba in different places of the region. That's an important demonstration. You can see there different actions from different movements. For example, the landless movement, the landless workers movement of Brazil has announced this donation of food and different issues to Cuba, and also different movements of the region. Recently, in ALMA movement, we have been discussing about the necessity to show our solidarity and our force to Cuba by all the means possible. We are thinking about going on the sea in some flotilla, as the one we say in Gaza, to support Cuba. We need to send food, we need to send medicines, but we need to go over there like internationalist brigades in order to support, to be there with our friends from Cuba for anything that they need, for any possible scenario. If they are going to attack Cuba, we will defend Cuba. We will be there. And actually, Alpha Movement has recently agreed that we will have our continental assembly this year in Cuba in order to support the people of Cuba, to go there to the factories, to the communities, to every place that we need to go in order to give them a message to the people of Cuba that we are friends, that we are comrades, that we are brothers, but also deliver a message to the world. You can go against Cuba. You can go against sovereignty of our peoples. You can go against Latin America and the Caribbean. And of course, that the peoples will unify against imperialism in this era of our continent. This is about the messages that we need to put together at this moment. I will also have to say that I think that this particular moment is determined by a brutal offense initiative from the US in order to guarantee to recover the full hegemony that they have. In the last years, a lot of people has been talking about this transition in the hegemony in the region, in the whole on the whole planet. They say, well, so far we have had an hegemony from the US and the West countries, the global North, but now we are seeing how with China and Russia that is changing and is going into a new world order. Well, this is the answer from the West, specifically from the US, in order to stop that so-called transition hegemony process, but also in order to recover and to rebuild, to strengthen this hegemony. And there is a hat-off situation that is not more, you can see that this is a moment where you don't have some kind of simulations that you have some order. They are putting in the center the raw truth of the global dominance, which is about war. And this is an expression of what the elites in the US think that needs to be done. In that order, maybe Trump is some kind of the guy who is available and who and has the disposition to make the dirty work that they need at this point. Particularly in Latin America and the Caribbean, we have a struggle against the free trade area that they tried to promote 20 years ago to guarantee the hegemony in our continent. At this moment, 20 years ago, they tried to promote it by the negotiation and discussions and, of course, putting the pressure of the empire in that process. But with national mobilization, with the struggle from the grassroots, we achieved to stop that. And we promote actually with national governments that promote some flags of revolution and defending our sovereignty, with Hugo Chavez, with Lula, with Nestor Kirchner, with even Evo Morales, with different leadership of the region as a consequence of the mobilization. Right now, we are seeing an imperialism that is not about international law, it's not about to discuss in some proposal, it's directly the military force. And what they are trying to say at this moment is, we are ready to take action. We are putting all the military forces, and that's something that there's this say about from whom the bell tolls. I think that the bells are tolling for China and Russia and all the global South. If we don't unify and we don't answer, they are going against us. I think that, you know, that in the last, in 200 years ago, in the independence struggles in Latin America, in the South, there was this general called Jose Gervasio Artigas, who says something like, we don't need to expect anything different from us. And in the last year, Maduro was repeating this like a lot. He said, we don't need to expect anything but from us. So I think that's some kind of message to this global South and the specific point of force in this alliance. We need China and Russia to take action at this moment. And it's not just a declaration of intentions, because of course, China and Russia have had proper positions and statements, but it's not just about statements. This is about war, and war in all the different levels of war. So it's important. I think that most of this offensive of the US is because they actually have seen in the last 10, 20 years that there is a transition going on. And of course, China and Russia has had demonstrations of the strategical alliance in order to promote a change of order. This is the moment for you guys. You need to take action, but it needs to be like a whole global South movement. Here in Latin America, when Trump announced that he's reloading the Monroe Doctrine, the Monroe Doctrine, to be very concrete, 200 years ago, Monroe, a president from the US, proposed this doctrine when he said basically, well, Europe, get out from Latin America and the Caribbean. You need to step out from here. This is a region that we need to control, and you keep out of it and dedicate to your region. And this is our area of influence. And they kind of propose to Europe this kind of agreement in order to distribution of the dominance in the world. So when Trump talk about this at this moment, he's referring to a new kind of arrangement that he's proposing, where he says Russia dedicates to Europe, China dedicates to Asia, and we dedicates to Latin America and the Caribbean, the whole West Hemisphere. So that proposal needs to make us see that he's talking about not some peaceful situation. He's talking about some temporary agreement in order to go to another level of confrontation. And actually, when you see what's going on right now with Israel and Iran, you kind of have doubts about that situation, because it's not really US respecting the idea that they will keep here out of it. The US is actually putting a lot of pressure on Iran, and we need to take that seriously. Comrades, it's important that we took what happened here in Venezuela. A lot of people thought that we're just about pressure. A lot of people said, no, they won't do anything. It's only pressure. They won't go to military action. Well, I think that the genie is out of the bottle. They have go out with the whole military action, and I don't think that they will go back. They will go forward. They will step forward. And that's what we are seeing actually in the last years with Israel in the region, not only with Palestine, with Gaza, now with Iran, with the support of the US. So what I was mentioning before is that with Monroe, when Monroe mentioned that 200 years ago, the answer from that, from Latin America and the Caribbean, was Bolivar. Bolivar was proposing the integration of the whole region in order to defend sovereignty, in order to promote our interests as regions, as peoples, respecting the other ones, not trying to colonize anyone. So that, and at that point we said it was Monroe against Bolivar. We think that in the global South, we need to establish which one are our flags. What is the answer from the global South to this new Monroe Doctrine? It's something like going from Bolivar to Bandung. We need to know which is our reference right now in order to struggle, because this is the moment. As well as I say that the bells tolls from China and Russia, they also tolls from the global South. The same way that in Latin America, a lot of people went to the street in order to fight against neoliberalism proposal. Now we need to mobilize against this whole military offense, They are proposing war to the world, and of course, not all the world. They are proposing war to the global south. So, what will be our answer to that situation? I think that's something that we need to discuss seriously at this point.
Thank you. I agree with you. So, I would still like to spend a little bit more time. I know you've been speaking for 2 hours already, but I would like to take up
Sorry.
still a little bit more of your time. And about the Commune University, because that is what I would really like to write something about, because I think that is that whole model that you are now preparing and planning and about to implement is a totally different one from the kind of university education that we see. And so I think that is really very important. And so the whole conception, it is so creative and it is so so much anchored in the needs of the communes to cater for the need to cater for the need to to train students that will become that will develop their expertise in which will benefit the development of the communes, and which in this process would also bind the students with the destiny of the communes. So this is also a very important pedagogical and cultural and relationship building between students and the communes. So that is why I'm really very, very interested and would like to write about this and to promote this idea that you are doing. So I may go into some technicalities. So the one question is, you were saying that the commune would make their plans, which is understandable. But then you were saying that will the communes also recommend students to the university, or will the students still be the ones that have enrolled already in the university, and they will be deployed and assigned to the communes? So that's about the kind of people that will work together.
The third thing is that here in Venezuela, you have like traditionally two ways of access to the university. The one is some universities has these internal test exams to evaluate and decide if they took some students, they decide, the university decide if you took the ones that you evaluate that are the most adequate for the university. And the other way is that we have this national system that I don't remember exactly the name, but anyway, the important issue is that we have a national system that organize all the offers from the universities, and this system organized also an exam, a process which is a mixture between an exam, a national exam test, a national test, at the same time evaluates all the records that each student have. And according to those two patterns, it established like a rate for each student and says for each student you can study this or this or this or this. That's the traditional way of going to the university here in Venezuela. The Bolivarian Revolution has introduced a third one that doesn't, Bolivarian Revolution has started a process of criticizing the first one, which is the possibility of the university to decide who studies, who goes there, and who goes not. Oh, there's something I need to mention. I'm talking about the state public education. I'm not talking about the private education. In Venezuela, we have agreed with the private sector of universities. Well, can go whoever who can pay. That's okay. We don't do that. We will do nothing with that. But in the public education system, the Bolivarian Revolution start to criticize the possibility of the public universities to decide who goes in, who or who doesn't, because most of the times it has been like a corrupted system where they have the capacity to decide according to different criteria. Like, for example, you can see that one of the main universities in Venezuela is the Central University of Venezuela. And there you can see that the criteria of selection, it's a lot about privileged classes. And by that way, they have used the public resources in order to have benefit and to guarantee professionalization only for the middle class and the upper middle class. And that's something that Bolivarian Revolution has been criticizing, actually trying to eliminate those internal exams and trying to put it aligned with the national system. That's the two things that the Bolivarian Revolution has been doing. And the third one is that has been promoting more universities and actually the municipalization of the university of the university education system, so that people can go to the university in every grassroots they live on. So I don't need to go to the capital. I don't need to go to Caracas, to the main cities in order to study, but instead you have the possibility to study in every place that you are. So that's something about how it's been managed in Venezuela. And in the last since the last year, since 2024, Nicolas Maduro announced this National Communes University. And we start this process where we change and we propose a new criteria, a new doctrine for the university conception. And we said, well, it doesn't need to be, of course, the National University of Communes, the one who decides who goes there to study. But also, it doesn't need to be the national system, the one who decides. The one who decides who goes to the National Communes University is the community. It's the community. So the people who is right now studying in the university is people that the commune put together and decide to say, well, here we'll study Hernan, Kinching, and those are the ones who decide. That's the first issue. The second issue related to that is, well, but how do they decide? You just say anyone with no criteria, and then we establish this method, which is related, as you mentioned, Kinchi, with the planning. And there I have to make another comment. In Venezuela, since started this process of the building the communes, in 2008 or even a little before, Chavez started to talk about the communes. And he talked about the necessity of the communes as a grassroots, as a form of organization of the political, economical, social system. And he also started to reflect, to discuss about the historical expressions. Talk about the Paris Commune, the Soviets in the USSR, the Chinese People's Commune he started reflecting about that, and he also reflects and discuss about the experiences, the communal experiences, historical in Latin America. And with all that reflections, it gave a step forward from the discussions to legislation. And he started to say, well, this is a law, a national law for how a commune works. And this legislation established, as were discussed in a political level, that each commune needs to establish the reasons that put together as a commune. And one of the things that are important in a commune is that a commune need to discuss which one is his plan of development. What will they do as a commune? What they are planning to do in the future? Going through where? So that's from the legislation point of view. And in the last years, so from that point, it started a whole process of planning, people putting together some projects, more contingency level about what needs to be done right now. In the last years, in the last 10 years, with all the blockade situation, it has been built a method from the government, which is every commune needs to have a concrete action agenda, which is some kind of instrument of planning, but focalized and prioritizing necessities. So it's more about conjuncture and contingency. You know what I mean? And then in the last years, we have been recovering the idea of the planning more on a strategical level. So with the National People Consultation, our planning national ministry has started a process to guarantee that each commune in the country needs to have a government plan for the commune. And that government plan for the commune, it's built by the commune themselves, you know? So they discuss there and they put it together. So I made all this comment because here in the National Communes University, the method that we have built start with that planning. So what we say is the commune took that plan and start to discuss about from that plan, you need to establish which one are the areas of knowledge that you need to develop in order to concrete this plan. Like, for example, if you say that you are going to change all the different infrastructure for mobilization and transportation in the commune, which one are the different areas of knowledge that we need? Also, maybe we need a little of civil infrastructure engineering. We also need some people who study geology and some people who study about construction, infrastructure, and architecture, and so on. So you start to establish which one are the different areas of knowledge that you need. I was putting an example, but it's the same with the water system, it's the same with the electrical or energy system. So for all of that, we have created this instrument for the commune that we call something like, in Spanish is mapa de conocimientos para la transformación comunal. In English could be something like knowledge mapping for communal transformation. So every commune needs to build this map of the knowledge that they need to transform, to transform the communal territory. And this is, I have to mention, this is a mixture between the things that you need and the things that you already have. Because as you well know, in the commune you have a traditional knowledge of agriculture, of medicine, of different things basically the people who lives in the grassroots is the people who made possible the whole society, is the working class, is the people who grows the things that we consume, is the thing that build the buildings and the houses, is there in the working class communities, in the communes. So this is the mixture. So this university also has when this commune makes this process of to say, this is the plan that we need. And from there, this is the knowledge that we need to strengthen. And that's the thing that we use to say them, well, now that you have said that you have established the areas of knowledge that you need to develop, now I need that you summon the different people of the commune, no matter if they are youth or not so youth, adult people, even could be like old people. You put together all of them and you discuss who will want to study here in this university. But the only condition is that you need to commit to this plan and this map of knowledge. So what we have been discussing is the same way that maybe, I don't know, the people who works in Schlumberger, an oil transnational company, they goes to study in Scotland about the technology for the well production, and they are committed to Schlumberger, who is the company who is paying for those studies. And they need to come then back to Schlumberger to put and to pay for that possibility. So that's in the capitalism, that's in the market conception. Here, what we are putting as an alternative is that we say, is the commune the one who is promoting that you study for the things that they need to develop? So you need to commit to that, which is something not that difficult, not that hard, because as I were mentioning before, talking about another issue, most of the people that don't migrate in Venezuela is people who actually doesn't want to move, who likes to be here. So it's people that probably would like to stay in his community and that his community gets better. So this proposal that they commit in order to study something, to put it in the community, it's something that makes sense. In our first experiment of that, something like 8,000 people were proposed for the communes to study in the university from more than 400 communes. From those 400 communes that were originally proposed to study in the university, only 357 started the process, actually started, and are studying at this moment. The other ones, for different reasons, didn't start. Maybe they will start later. But 357 are already seeing classes all the weeks and are making practices in their communes. So that's the method that we have to access to the National Communes University. And of course, what we are designing right now is the method to guarantee that that criteria, that principle that we use actually could be consistent during the whole process. So it's about how to guarantee that the whole process of education will be faithful to that plan, to that mapping. Oh, and I have to add, all that is referred to a national goal. What we have recovered thought from an important intellectual from the Bolivarian movement, which is called, he's a guy from the Andean region. His name is Clever Ramirez Rojas. Clever Ramirez, he was an ideological leader among the movement that Hugo Chavez commanded. And he said that in order to change our country, we need to guarantee that we are able to produce food, to produce science, and to produce dignity. And this has been one of our main philosophical guides, but specifically guidelines for the action. So what we have established is that this university need to measure his efficiency regarding to these three aspects. We need to guarantee that each one of those 357 communes and progressively the whole 5,336 communes produce food, science, and dignity.
So some more details. So
Yes.
now you have 8,000 students that are nominated and recommended by the communes to register formally as the university students. So they could be young people in their 20s, or they could be maybe people who is 40 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, we actually have, and that's something very particular from the Bolivarian Revolution, because Hugo Chavez proposed something that all the people agreed to, that is that we all have the right to access to the education. So we have even the older people than 40 years. We have actually people of 40 to 60 years studying in the universities that sometimes are the elders from the communes, which are spokespersons, which are historical leaders of the communes. There, it's an important point to make a comment that Nicolas Maduro, who is the one who thought about this and created this university, he said that we have as a goal not only to promote the professional education for some people, but he said, but we need to also be able to certify the whole knowledge that the people already have. And that's important regarding to the elders, because actually during these years, well, since I have worked with the communes in Venezuela, I've always seen Kinchi. When I went to some grassroots at some point, I see an elder, which is the one who knows how to build a bridge. He has no degree, he has no diploma about anything, but he knows all the calculations and he knows all the conditions in order to make a good bridge. So I put this example because that's what Maduro refers when he talks about the necessity to certify that knowledge. So we have said that in this university, we need to make both the process of education in order to then certify the education that you have during the university, but also we need to establish the method that here in Venezuela we have some methodology developed in order to guarantee certify all this knowledge that you had before. And at that point, what we are talking is that maybe that elder with a wise guy about this infrastructure building, maybe we can certify him. And when we certify and we check all the path that he has gone on, maybe we can establish that he is an engineer and we certify that, or maybe he is a superior technical specialist in some area. And we can, and if he wants to go on, we will share all the knowledge that he needs in order to step forward in this career, because we actually have innovators. We have scientific people. It happens a lot. People who goes and tell, well, see the thing that I made. I made this mixture to guarantee this formula for feeding the animals, or I made this instrument, this machine, in order to guarantee the preparation of the land, the ground for the cultivation. You have a lot of those things here in Venezuela.
Among your students now, so you now have about 8,000 students, or do you have more? Do you admit students from the public examination if they choose to come to the Commune University?
Some of them, we don't know how much, maybe were part of the public examinations, but we don't ask that as a requirement to come into the university. What we do establish as a requirement is to have to be to have conclude the studies from the secondary at least. We have established in some special cases we can have it happens here in Venezuela sometimes, Kinchi, that you have people that as I mentioned before, it's an elder wise guy who knows a lot about some area, but maybe he doesn't have even the certification of secondary studies. And in those particular cases, which are not the majority, we have said we can help them to guarantee certify that part of the process, you know? But that is not the same with the younger ones. Because when we have someone who, I don't know, who have 15 years, 14 years, he can come to the university to help him to finish the secondary studies because he said, no, you're a younger one, you need to finish your regular process. This is for the elder ones who had another conditions. And the other thing is that we establish some criteria for the people who comes. We access the people that the communes decide, but we give some criteria to the commune. These that I mentioned before, you need to be at least secondary student, graduate. You need to have, of course, some experience or at least inclination to the areas that the communes are proposing. And of course, you have to decide, but you have to have a little background in order to study that area. And then is the process of education the one who will decide if you are achieving or not achieving, if you are accomplishing, if you are if you are answering to the necessities of the commune, to the reason the commune propose you to the university.
Some more technical questions. Do they have
Yes.
to pay university fees?
You know that in Venezuela, with the Bolivarian Revolution, one of the most important, one of the important principles that were established is that Hugo Chavez said, if we have all this income from the oil, we need to put that in order to guarantee social securities for people. And from that, it started this process that in Venezuela, but because in some countries, university education is not for all. In Venezuela, it's a universal right, as they used to mention. So everyone could. And the state has the obligation to reduce at the minimum all possible fee to access to university education. Of course, during the sanctions, the blockade years, it has get more difficult, but we have tried to preserve that principle that people doesn't need to pay any fee to be in the university. So specifically, National University of Communes so far doesn't charge any fee to the students.
And then, so are the students full time or part time, and do they get the degree, the university degree after 3 or 4 years?
Yes, so far our design for most of the careers of the national programs of formation, we have 19 different programs. So far, all of them can be concluded in a 3 years period. That's so far. Again, it's so far our minimum requirement, our average process. I emphasize that because maybe Hernan start studying and then he has some problem and he couldn't continue, or he couldn't uh, uh, accomplish the periods that were established. And we said, well, maybe Hernan is not eliminated. Maybe he will delay. He won't be able to, and he will need 4 years, or I don't know. But the average we are trying to guarantee, which is 3 years. And I could mention to you that we have this idea about how in this current society all the relationship with the knowledge has been like changing, and we have been discussing, like for example, Maduro he's an interesting guy because he said, well, why do you need to have 3 years or 4 years or 2 years? Can you be in 2 years? Can you study the whole things that you need in 2 years? He said, I'm not sure about which one should be the key points that uh, that actually sustains or requires why 3, 2, or 4 years. So I mentioned that to you because I think that we are in some kind of quest in order to guarantee which one should be the best method and which are the most important issues in a good quality system of education for a revolutionary process like ours.
Very last question. Could you give us some idea of the population of the commune? So we have some idea about the size. So for example, about the 357 communes, on average, what would be the population of each commune?
The thing here with the commune is that maybe you know that here in Venezuela, we have each commune, it's composed by different communal councils. Regarding to the communal councils, uh, our legislation established like a pattern of the amount of families that can be part of a communal council. But then with the commune, as we already have the experience from the communal councils, we kind of learn that it's not that rigid, the reality. Because from a point of view of national planning, we say, well, it's better if we regulate it. And we say 400 families, no more, between 400 and 200. And we said, and in the rural areas could be less because there's a lower density. But then with the communes, we said, well, that's not that rigid because actually we're saying to the people that when they establish a commune, it's a self-governance level of the state. So we are talking about the disposition of the political system and of governance of the country. So we can maybe impose something that is not the same reality that they have in the territory. So all that comment is because we don't have an amount established of families for each commune. And that process, and that makes kind of tricky the possibility of make some how you call that, like a promedium of people that you have among communes, because you can have, since a commune that have 1,000 population, but then you can have a commune with 10,000 people. You know, you can have a lot of important extremes of differences. You have communes that have something like 5 communal councils. That happens a lot. But also you have some extremes in our country where you have 50 communal councils in a commune. So you have important extremes. I could say you that in the most of the references that I have seen used to be something like 1,000 families, 2,000 families. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. But yet, I think that we need to study better all these statistics to establish which one are the more accurate media of the population distribution in the communes.
The question is just to have some idea of the kind of the amount of the number of population of families that will be involved actively in the planning of the project and in the recruit and selecting students for the university. So it's just to have a rough idea. Yes.
Yes. In that matter, there are at least 2 comments that could be important in that direction. One of them is that in each commune, you have the whole population. That, let's put an example of a commune which have 1,000 families in the territory. That could be something like 3,000 people, 3,000, 4,000. In that community, if maybe they have 5 communal councils, the communal council is a figure where the representatives are not representatives, are servants to the community, which are elected, freely elected by the community. So at one day, each 2 years, you make a public election and you select the people. The people that you select are not the chief 1, chief 2, chief 3. You know, instead of that, you decide who will be responsible for the committee, the committee of water of the community, and the committee of education, and the committee of health. According to our law, each communal council should have something like 30 different committees, you know? So you could establish as a measure that each communal council has something like between 30 and 40 spokespersons, communal servants. The Spanish term, which I don't find like a proper word in English, is vocero. Vocera is someone who is mandated. It's more nearby. It's a culture more nearby to the indigenous culture, which has been took in different regions of Latin America, and like for example is basic in the Zapatistas culture. You know, for example, it's more about this conception of OVM power which is about to serve the collective. You know. Well, that's one of the comments. So with that, you can have a reference that in this particular example that I was sharing, if you have a commune that has like 5 communal councils which have something like 1,000 families. Probably from that 1,000 families that maybe are 4,000 people, but maybe could be something like 2,500 that actually can vote. The people who votes decide, and maybe they select for the whole community, for each communal council, something like 40 people. So each communal council has something like 40 people. So in that commune, you can have something like 40 by 5, 200 spokespersons from the communal councils. But then you make another election for the spokespersons of the commune. And the structure to the commune, it's also around 40 to 50 people in the different, because also it's the same structure: economy, politics, health, agriculture, productive, women's rights. You have a lot of them. And at that point, as you can see, you have like a whole army where these commune can have around the 10% of all the population who votes. If you can see that the population who votes is 2,500, maybe you can have 250 spokespersons from a total amount of 4,000 population, people in that commune. The other thing that I want to mention is that
Yeah, a rough idea about how many people will be involved actively in
yes,
planning the project that they will propose to the university and send students here. Yes,
in
that was
this
the question.
example that I put you, maybe you can say that in a 4,000 people population in a commune, maybe something like 250 are dedicated to the discussions or the planning. But also, the other fact that I want to mention to you is that we as university, we have not established that we are now the university option for all the people who lives in the community. You know, the universal right that everyone has to university education is not now related or need to be fitted by the national community university. With in that commune that we are talking about as an example, everyone still can go to study in all the different universities that we have in the country. That, by the way, public universities, it's something like 150 public universities in the whole country. So it's a lot. And I mean, for Venezuela. So in this case, what we see is that people still can go there, because a lot of youngsters could say, well, I don't want to commit to the commune. I want to study because I want to go, I don't know, whatever. And that's okay. You have that right. The only thing that we are saying is that that's not the threat in the commune's university. What we say is you can go there to another community, another university. Actually, since we have this beta process, this experimental phase, the rector, Jorge Arreaza, has recently mentioned, he said, I've seen that in some places we can have young people that didn't come with the acknowledging which this process is about. So maybe we establish a guidelines and a method, but that could happen that at some place the people didn't follow accurately, and maybe you can see a place where, I don't know, Hernan, who lives in the community, proposed his cousin, and he put in there, but he doesn't have conscience of the whole process. the whole community don't make the proper commitment. And in that case, in those cases, what the rector established, he said, we need to now evaluate that, because maybe if you are not aware of all the system, we can help you to go into another university. Maybe you are not committed with the commune, and that's okay. If we can convince you to be committed to the commune, that's no problem. Let's go there to another place, to another university, among the whole 150 universities that we have.
So are all the 150 universities free, no tuition, free?
Yes, those are public universities.
Public
We have
universities.
more universities, but public universities, 150.
Okay, and also the percentage of people at the age to enter university, roughly, what is the percentage that go to universities? Because I think you may have a very high number, because in China and in Hong Kong, the figure is actually very low. Yeah, if we look at only the public universities.
You know, to public universities, yes, it's a lot of people. I don't have a rough number about that. I know that most of them are people which is among between 20 and 40 years. Most of the people that is studying in the universities. In the public universities, most of the people could be between 20 and 30 years. Also in the Communes University, most of the people is in that range of age so far. But also in Venezuela, since we have established all these universal rights to the education at every level, we also have like a lot of people from 40 to 60 years. That's actually one of the nice things of the revolution, because we established all these programs of access to the different levels of education, so we can have someone who study in the program of alphabetization, and then goes to our program, our mission to primary education, and then goes to the program of secondary education, and then graduate from the university with us. And that could be a person who starts here like 40 years or even 50 years in some cases, and they graduate, I don't know, 60 years, 70 years. That for the capitalism is a waste of money and energy and that. But for us, it's a very good thing, because it's people who cries at the end, because they feel they never thought that they will be able to do that. So that's a very nice thing. And it has created this culture that people doesn't think that their possibilities of studying, of developing, of starting new projects finish at some age, you know. So instead of that, people think that always can fight for a better future and development. So I think that's a nice characteristic of Bolivarian revolution.
So I think this universal right to education and to getting a university education is very special, and I think it's very unique. So that means anyone who wants to acquire a university education can do so. They will be admitted to one of those universities.
Of course, the university demands something from you. It's not that you are going there and you have the right to study, not necessarily the right to graduate. You need to work for it. But you know, some comment about that, what you mentioned, Kinchi. For example, we had a lot of discussions some years ago, Hugo Chavez, with Rafael Correa from Ecuador, because he doesn't believe in that. He said that not everyone needs to go to the university, and not everyone it's feasible to go to the university. Say only some people has the capacities to go to the university. So he said that it was a waste of time, the things that we that we were doing, and we have a lot of discussions with him